Good morning children. कैसे हैं आप लोग? Well, this is the next topic, very interesting topic that we are going to deal in the chapter called life processes. Fine. So last session all what did we see? We saw about the nutrition and then respiration. Next very important system is the transportation. Transportation in the animals. So here we are dealing about the circulatory system. Right. So in this today's session we are going to talk about the body fluids. Okay children? So today's session we are going to talk about the body fluids. Body fluids. So what are the body fluids that is found in our human body? They are of two types. So fluids, two broad areas that we are going to talk about. They are namely blood and another it is lymph. Okay, so two body fluids we are going to talk that is circulating in our body. Okay, so first we will deal about the blood. Children, blood is a important fluid that is actually important. Why? Because it's so important because it is the one which is carrying most of the important nutrients and also the important gases to all parts of our body. Okay, so they have to move. So this is the blood which carries to all parts of our body. So we will talk about the blood. So blood, children, it's basically made up of plasma. Blood is actually made up of plasma. What is this plasma is consisting of? Okay, so their blood, the plasma, it is actually composed of water. Water it is composed of. It's composed of proteins. Okay, it's composed of proteins. Other substances also it is composed of. Other substances is also there. Apart from that, it is having the cellular components. Apart from that, it is also having cellular components. Children, so blood is basically composed of plasma, and the plasma it's composed of water, proteins, substances and cellular components. So water mainly it is around 90%. So 90 to 91% is actually blood. That's why blood you can see it is very watery fluid, right? What are the proteins that are present there? The proteins that are present are namely globulin proteins are there. Please note down children, globulin proteins, albumin, okay, albumin, prothrombin, fibrinogen. These are all some of the proteins, they are present here. And the substances, I said you some other substances, they are amino acids, glucose, okay, uric acid will be present, then creatinine, fats, fatty substances. These are all the substances that is also present. Okay. Besides, apart from that, also we have the salts. Okay, we also have the salts. See how much of composition that we find in the blood. So, apart from that also we will find salts also there. So, salts of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and also we have sodium chloride, sodium bicarbonate. This is also same apart from the substances. And coming to the cellular components, children, the cellular components that it is composed of, it is of three types, namely red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles or white blood cells, and the third component is platelets. Okay, so we have the cellular components. Besides this, all the substances that we have, we also have the cellular components. Okay, the cellular components are namely red blood corpuscles, white blood cells and platelets. So we have the names for this. Red blood cells is also called as erythrocytes. It's also called as erythrocytes. WBCs is called as leukocytes. And platelets are called as thrombocytes. So these are the other names for this. Now, red blood cells, this is formed from the bone marrow. Okay, it's formed from the bone marrow from which they arises. They arises from the bone marrow, and from there they get slowly they are released and they get matured and they passes. So in the matured RBCs, my dear, they will not have, you should remember, there is no nucleus present there. They don't have nucleus at all. This is one of the important thing that RBCs, okay, because usually it is usually asked in your general knowledge, when you are taking part in competitive exams. So RBC is the one cell which we find in our body which don't have nucleus. And what is the very special about the RBCs? Because it gives a red color to the blood. That is because of the presence of a substance called hemoglobin. That is very, very important. They have an important substance, a pigment called hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is the substance. And children, we have already seen in the respiration, and that is also respiratory pigment also. So what is that responsible? It carries oxygen, mostly carries oxygen. At the same time, it also carries carbon dioxide also. So it has more, more attraction towards the oxygen. So more attraction it has towards the oxygen molecule. But even carbon dioxide also it will be carried. Okay. So this is the globin molecule it has. RBCs, my dear, if you see per cubic millimeter, that means in 1 cubic millimeter, let me mention that, in 1 cubic millimeter of the blood, in 1 cubic, okay, millimeter, in cubic millimeter of the blood, if you take the RBCs count, another very interesting point, there will be around 5 million. There may be around 5 million cells they will contribute. They can say they are around 5 million cells. Let me use a different color so that you can be able to differentiate it. So per cubic millimeter, there may be 5 million. Coming to the WBCs, they can be around 6,000 to 10,000. So usually 6,000 to 8,000 also there. This is the number per cubic millimeter. Platelets, they may be around 2,50,000. 2,50,000 through 3 lakhs. So this is the number of the platelets seen in per cubic millimeter of blood. Please remember, per cubic millimeter of blood, this is the count that we have. Now, RBCs, you know that they have a lifespan. That is a very interesting part. The lifespan of RBCs is 120 days. And they get destroyed in the parts called spleen. Right? The spleen and the liver is where they get destroyed. They get destroyed in the spleen. As well as the liver is the part where they get destroyed. Then the hemoglobin is released. Okay, so heme just have, because it is having a very important substance. What is the important mineral that it has? Iron. It has a very important, this heme part, children, you should know that it has a very important part called as iron. So the iron is again released out and that be again used. Globin is a protein, again it is used for other cellular metabolism purposes. Right, and whatever is the waste products after the this breakdown of this hemoglobin, when the RBC is getting breakdown and when it is getting deposited in the spleen and the liver, some of the waste products are released. Okay, that waste products, what is the component of the bile salt? You remember the bile juice? What is it responsible for in nutrition? It is responsible for emulsification of fats. So that have a salt. After the degradation of the hemoglobin, the waste products that is released is namely bilirubin and biliverdin. Biliverdin and bilirubin. This is called as bile salts. Okay. So this is after the the remaining part of the destruction of this hemoglobin. So iron components again used for the preparation of again the hemoglobin. Globin is used for other purposes because it's a protein. You see that the globulin protein is there, and the other waste products that is again released to form the bilirubin, which is one of the bile salts that is there in the liver. Okay. Now coming to the WBCs. WBC children, they are of 5 types. They are of 5 types. There are 5 types. What are they? They are called as lymphocytes. They are lymphocytes. Another one is called monocytes. Another cell is called monocytes. Another one is called as neutrophils. I hope you are writing down, children. There are 5 types of WBCs, that is leukocytes, lymphocytes, monocytes, neutrophils, and then eosinophils, and then we have what is called as basophils. So these are all the different components of this WBC. Okay, children. Mainly they are responsible for our immune system. So you know that now the main problem that is due to this COVID-19 is because the problem is with the immune system. If you have a very strong immune system, then naturally no disease causing organism can attack our body. So this immune system is basically because of these particular cells. Main contribution comes from the lymphocytes. These children. Next, thrombocytes. They are basically responsible for, you should remember, these are responsible for clotting of blood. They are responsible for clotting of blood. So clotting of the blood, you can see that when you are running or when you are doing something, some bruises appear and some amount of the blood comes out. After that it clots. This is because of this platelet. So platelets plays an important role in the clotting of the blood. Now we will try to see what is the mechanism of the clotting of the blood. Children, we saw that we have, you just see here the proteins. There are 2 important substances. One is what? Prothrombin is there. Another is the fibrinogen. So these 2 important things plays a very important role in the clotting of the blood. So clotting of the blood, we will try to see the mechanism. You will see the mechanism of the clotting of the blood, how it takes place. So first we will talk about the prothrombin. Just write down the reaction, children. In the clotting of the blood, you see here, we will have the prothrombin. Okay, prothrombin. And this prothrombin, it is converted into thrombin. It is converted into thrombin. How this is converted? It is acted upon by calcium salts, and also we have an enzyme called as thrombokinase. So thrombokinase is an enzyme which acts here and converts the prothrombin into thrombin. Now you bring the other component. What is the other component, children? Fibrinogen. Very good. So you write fibrinogen here. You write fibrinogen here. Very good. This is how you can write in the examination, children. And this fibrinogen, it is acted upon by this thrombin. This thrombin acts here. You see here, children, prothrombin, the presence of calcium ions. I said already calcium is very important. In the presence of thrombokinase, is converted to thrombin, and thrombin, it facilitates this fibrin to be converted into fibrinogen into fibrin. Okay, now here the blood cells are involved. In this case, the blood cells are involved, and also we have one of the important vitamin. That vitamin which helps here, which also helps here, is vitamin K. Okay, so vitamin K, thrombin and the blood cells, they act, and fibrinogen is converted into fibrin. This fibrin is what is called as clot factor. This is what is called as clot factor. Is it clear, children? Now let's go for the next fluid called as lymph. Lymph is actually the extracellular fluid. So this is said to be the blood is a main component which plays a very important role because it has a very vital number of substances in it and it's responsible for the transport of the gases also and also to carry various important substances. Apart from that, another body fluid is there. This is actually present outside. That means between the cells. If you have the cells like this, you have the cells like this. You have the cells. You have the cells. Okay, the cells are there. So the fluid, this lymph is the one which flows in through this. This flows like this. So we can also call this intracellular fluid also. And you will find the thing. Okay, this is where you find your nucleus is there here. So this is the cell, suppose. So these fluids will flow. This also fluids also flows as the blood also flows through all the parts of the body, and the lymph also flows. It is not a very specific places. So lymph is actually produced by the lymphatic glands, and we have lymphatic vessels, and this flows through the lymph nodes. That is, the lymphatic vessels and lymph nodes are there through which the lymph is actually passing through. And lymph is actually, you see the first name lymph. This part of the lymph, which component do you remember? Very good. You remember the component called as lymphocytes. Very good. This part. So this is mainly rich in this lymph. So that is very important for your immune system. So what is this lymph actually is carrying? It is carrying more amount of some proteins are less in comparing to the blood. It is less proteins it's carrying, and plus it also carries fat and other digested substances. Other digestive substances also the lymph will carry. So these are all the substances which the lymph carries. Not in comparing to this, only the difference between the lymph and the blood is that blood is pale red in color. What is that reason? Because of hemoglobin. Lymph do not have hemoglobin. That is very, very important. So you should remember that the lymph is the one which is minus Hb. So it does not have, that means it does not have the hemoglobin here. Whereas this has plus hemoglobin. Hemoglobin component is present here. Listen children, now let us recap what we studied today. So we have studied today under the topic called transportation. Under the transportation we have discussed today the body fluids. There are two types of fluids in our body. What is that? Namely the blood as well as lymph. Is it clear? Blood, it's actually made up of plasma, and plasma is consisting of this following substances. Let me put in a very beautiful box like thing. It has the water, it has the proteins, you can see that has the proteins, it has the other substances here, you can see that it is the other substances here which it has. Apart from that, it is having the components. Okay, it has this components. So the four different areas what is blood is consisting of. So water is maximum, it is 90 to 91%. Proteins mainly globulin, albumin, prothrombin and fibrinogen. And prothrombin, fibrinogen, you can see that they are playing important role in the clotting of the blood. Substances, the various substances are there. The digestive, this is the final product of the proteins, the amino acids, the glucose, final product of the carbohydrate, uric acid, carotenoid, fats, and all salts of calcium. That is sodium chloride is there, sodium bicarbonate is there. Children, you should remember that because of this presence of sodium bicarbonate, the pH of the blood is alkaline. It is alkaline. The pH of the blood is alkaline because of the presence of this sodium bicarbonate. And what are the cellular components that is present? That is RBCs, WBCs and platelets. RBCs is also known as erythrocytes. WBC is called as leukocytes. Platelets are called as thrombocytes. RBCs, they are produced by the bone marrow and they don't have nucleus, very important. And they have the presence of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is transports gases, carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. Oxygen is more binding and oxygen is most vital life. More vital, the gas which is important for our existence also. That's the lifespan is 120 days. It gets destroyed in the spleen as well as the liver. The waste products, namely bilirubin and biliverdin, they get deposited in the liver. Right. Next is said to be the WBCs. There are 5 types. What are they? Lymphocytes, monocytes, neutrophils. You are repeating? As I am telling, you are repeating, children? Very good. Lymphocytes, monocytes, neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils. The basic function is the response for the immune system. And also they are plays just like this amoeba, no? How they take the food, that food. Okay, right. So you have seen in the case of amoeba how it takes the food by means of endocytosis. That's also called phagocytosis, means cell eating. The same processes, these cells also will take the bacteria in. Just like amoeba action. Just you can recollect the amoeba, how it takes with the help of that cell wall, cell membrane. No, cell membrane is the one which absorbs that food. Okay, this is how the absorption takes place. Same thing. Just like that, this also will have the same activity. That's called as phagocytosis. The way by which they capture the bacteria and all, that's by means of process called as phagocytosis. Right, children? Next is the platelets, thrombocytes. They play a very important role in the clotting of the blood. And this is the mechanism. Prothrombin, in the presence of calcium ions, and the presence of an enzyme called thrombokinase, converted thrombin, and thrombin with the blood cells and vitamin K, and it acts on the fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is converted to fibrin, and that is the clot factor. Listen, children. Next is the lymph, that is present in the intercellular fluid, that do not have hemoglobin, and that carries all other substances. Protein is much less in comparing to the blood, but has more amount of fat and other digestive substances. Right, children? Okay. So anything you have, any comments and all this thing, please post in our YouTube channel. Okay then. Bye.